1996, I was in a construction accident, and I received a broken neck, a broken left shoulder, 2 broken legs, and a lot of damage to my spine. I had 5 neck surgeries, 5 shoulder operations, several leg operations, and was hospitalized for almost a year, and then 6 months in a rehab hospital. Suffered a lot of nerve damage. It was my first time ever being exposed to a painkiller. And I was on painkillers for a year straight.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really, really sick. And I thought it was the flu because I knew nothing of withdrawal. I was in bed for 10 days, vomiting, diarrhea, chills, sweats, you know. I went to even my doctor and he said it was the flu, you got the flu, you know, just to keep hydrated. And so I called the doctor, the neurosurgeon, I won't mention his name. I called him and I told him, I said, you know, after you stopped my medication, I got really, really sick. And some people said I was in really bad withdrawal. And he told me that there's no such thing as withdrawal. When you have pain, you take pain medication. When the pain ends and you end the medication, that's it.
So after Seattle, after that doctor, where did you end up?
I ended up moving back to New York, where I'm originally from, and I started having more and worsened symptoms. And in Seattle, they only fused 2 joints. And so I went to see a doctor in Manhattan at Mount Sinai Hospital, the head of neurosurgery. He's supposed to be one of the best. And he did all kinds of test studies on me, myelograms, you know, he did CAT scans with, what do they call it, contrast.
Mm-hmm.
He did MRIs with contrast. He did my neck in bending positions, all this stuff. He came to the determination that I had so many herniation and ruptured discs in my neck that the fusion needed to be bigger and longer.
Mm.
So being in as much pain as I was in at the time, he started me on pain medicine again before the surgery. And then I went and I had the surgery. They fused me from C2 to T1.
Wow.
It was 28 hours of surgery over 2 days. I recovered from the surgery, and then they referred me to a pain doctor that was in the hospital. So I started going to a pain management doctor that, you know, started me on OxyContin, Roxycontin, and another couple of drugs, some anti-inflammatories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then every month that I went to see him, and, you know, I told him this is hurting, that's hurting, you know, and he would up my medication every month. You know, I started down here and then I went like this, like this, like this, like this,
Yeah.
to where I was on 120 milligrams of OxyContin 3 times a day. I was on 40 milligrams of methadone 6 times a day. I was on Roxycontin 30 milligram pills, 20 pills a day. I was on, what else? I was on a drug that was fairly new called Subsys. It was a sublingual fentanyl that you spray into your mouth, and I was on 800 micrograms, 8 sprays a day on top of all that medication. You don't really know it when you're in it, but I was sedated beyond sedated. I was asleep most of the time. I would go out to dinner with my family and literally fall asleep, and my face would fall in the plate of food. My family got to the point where they were embarrassed to even take me out to eat. My life just was, I sat in a chair, I took medicine, and I just nodded in and out of consciousness. That was my life for 5 to 7 years. I spent like that. And I sought help from people and other doctors were just like, you know, you just stick with the doctor, he's doing the right thing, you know. Everybody was just, you know, there was nobody there to like help. And then after a while, the medicine quit working. All of a sudden, I had been on opioids I've been on opioids for 22 years straight, since 1996 up until, you know,
Right.
just very recently. And I just never thought I would get off them.
Yeah.
And something happened with my doctor in New York. One of the pharmacies that we went to got closed down, and I was called by ATF
Right.
and drug narcotics called my house, and they asked me why was I on this drug, Subsys. And I said my doctor put it on me for chronic pain. And he said, do you know what this drug is used for? And I said, no. They said, this is for cancer patients only when they're getting close to death. And I was shocked.
Right.
And so when I went back to see the doctor, I guess he had already been informed, and he said, the DEA is after me, and I have to cut your medicine drastically. So then it was just every month that I went, he was just cutting the medication, and I'm dying in withdrawal. Every month I'm dying. I'm just wishing that God would take me because it was so painful. And I get a call from an FBI agent, and, you know, not everybody gets a call from an FBI agent, you know, that never really happens to you. And he said, first off, Miss Lucido, I want to tell you you're not in trouble. And I was like, well, thank God for that. And he says, I want to inform you that your doctor has been arrested. And I said, well, that's not a shock to me. And then he says, well, why do you say that? And then I explained all the things that were going on and all the stuff like that. And he tells me, you want to know what he was arrested for? And I said, well, I have a good idea. And then he says that, well, first of all, your doctor was heavily over-medicating patients, and that 2 patients had died.
Oh, my goodness.
And there was a lot of overdoses from substance. He says that your doctor had made a deal with the drug rep and the owner of Subsys to put his patients on Subsys and encourage other doctors to put their patients on Subsys, and he was getting a huge kickback from the Subsys company. He's facing 35 years in jail now for what he's done to everybody, and I'm very glad of that. I hope he gets convicted.